Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Wells. I write horror, fantasy, and science fiction, and I talk about games on the internet. We've got a pretty short one today. It's an adventure supplement for Warhammer Fantasy, Rough Nights and Hard Days. This is based around an old adventure dating all the way back to the very first edition of the game called A Rough Night at the Three Feathers. It's been around forever. I've got it in this old second edition book called Plundered Vaults, where it was just one of many adventure ideas. It's always been one of the most popular ones. And so what they've done with Rough Nights and Hard Days is they've brought it back and they've designed more adventures around it that are in the same style. So, what is that style? Rough Night at the Three Feathers. The Three Feathers is an inn, and the adventure has the characters show up, spend the night at the inn, and deal with the insanity that's going on. There are multiple, I don't remember exactly how many, but there are multiple different plot threads running constantly through the adventure. And what's interesting about it is that they're all happening whether the players are participating in them or not. So there's a scheme with some cultists, there's a scheme with some nobles, there's 5 or 6 different groups of people that are all in the inn at the same time, and during the course of this one night, they're trying to accomplish their own little plans. And so the adventure is set up so that the game master can read hour by hour what each group is doing and what's going on and how they interact with each other. And what this does in practice is the players have the chance to... it's not the kind of thing where the players get a job and they're like, we need to go and slay this dragon or, save this farm or whatever thing. It's more the idea that they show up at the inn, they get to interact with a bunch of people at dinner, they can tell that there's some things going on, and then whichever plot threads they choose to involve themselves in, they can chase those down. So if they want to go and talk to this noble because they can tell that something's going on and that she's worried about something, well, does she have something she needs us to help with? You go to her room and you talk to her, but depending on what time of the night, maybe something has already happened to her, or maybe she's not there because she's in somebody else's room. Let's say you're pursuing a completely different thread and you go to that other room and the noble happens to be there because she's involved with some other kind of sneaky plan that's going on at the same time. So it's a blast to play through. This is one of the most enjoyable adventures that I have ever had the pleasure to participate in Warhammer Fantasy. And arguably in anything. It's justifiably famous, which is why it has been reprinted, as far as I know, in every single edition of Warhammer Fantasy. So what they've done with Rough Nights and Hard Days is they've taken that as a model. They have reprinted that original adventure, updated for the new edition, A Rough Night at the Three Feathers. But then, as you can see on this list here, they've added a bunch more. So there is A Day at the Trials, which is the same kind of idea, where there's a bunch of schemes going on all at the same time, and you can participate in the ones that you have brain space for. You can chase down whatever leads you want, and things will be going on in the background. They have that in a court system, like a big legal political battle. There's one called A Night at the Opera, which is what it sounds like. You go to a theater and there's a bunch of shenanigans and schemes going on in the background. There's one called Nastasia's Wedding, which relates to one of the Night at the Three Feathers ones, but it's a wedding this time instead of an inn. And then Lord of Ubersreich, which is another cool political one. And so, first of all, these adventures are all delightful. They all have that same kind of feeling of controlled chaos. The players are going to feel maybe a little lost, maybe a little unmoored as they go through them, but it's all very tightly constructed and very well presented, so the GM can run that chaos and that tight construction without losing control of everything. Now, and those can be done individually. All of the adventures can be run just by themselves, or you can string them together into a single campaign that's connected by these 5 central chaotic events. A lot of the schemes relate to each other. You can play them solo, or you can play them combined. The book also includes advice on how to connect these 5 adventures into the Enemy in the Shadows campaign, which is the new edition version of the Enemy Within campaign, which is one of the greatest role-playing campaigns of all time, and we will be talking about that later in the year. It is a fantastic, completely epic, empire-spanning campaign, and there's some good tips on how to put these 5 adventures into it if you want to. So it is a great little book. Not much to say about it because I don't want to spoil any of the things. Just pick it up. If you're playing Warhammer Fantasy, Rough Night at the Three Feathers is a fantastic adventure, and these new ones are worthy successors to its glory. So definitely take a chance to look into that if you can, and enjoy. Welcome to one of the best adventures that you'll ever have the pleasure to play. Thanks for joining me for this short little thing. I hope that you're having a good time. Don't touch your face, and I'll see you on my next review. Bye.